Hey there, quirky folks! I'm your host, Anna, and today in our segment of character explorations, we are going to look at yet another Marvel superhero. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is introducing two major characters to the MCU lore. We've already looked at one of those who is none other than Rocket's creator, the High Evolutionary. But now it's time for Adam Warlock to finally join the party. Once again, James Gunn has picked a surprising yet amazing actor for Adam Warlock in the MCU. At first, most of us didn't believe that it's this guy who is playing Adam Warlock. But it is a great casting choice because Will Poulter looks like this now. He is a total beefcake and looks amazing as Adam Warlock. His arrival is quite interesting as Aisha teased his creation all the way back in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
I think I shall call him Adam.
And that movie took place in 2014. Now considering Groot's recent development, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 takes place at least a year after Thor: Love and Thunder. So that could place this movie in late 2025 or 2026, which is why you have to stop and ask exactly what has Adam Warlock been up to over the last 11 to 12 years. He played a huge role in defeating Thanos back in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, but he was nowhere to be seen in MCU's Infinity War or Endgame. So it is important for James Gunn to explain his absence. But before that happens, let's take a brief look at his origins in the comics. Then we'll talk about his powers and abilities. So here is the origin of Adam Warlock. Created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, Adam Warlock made his debut all the way back in 1967 in Fantastic Four issue 66 and 67. But at this time, he was simply referred to as him. A group of researchers on Earth who called themselves Enclave were the ones that led to the formation of him. Their goal was to create the perfect human being, the pinnacle of future human evolution. But just as he emerged, he sensed that his creators wanted to use him for evil purposes. So he lashed out at his fathers and escaped their control. But having no real experience of life, he somehow ended up kidnapping Lady Sif in order to mate with her. Now that's a pretty horny Adam. But anyway, Thor didn't take this abduction too lightly. He caught up to the youngster and beat him to a pulp. In Thor issue 166, him created a regenerative cocoon around himself as a safety measure, only to be reborn later. Now this is when writer Roy Thomas and his artist Gil Kane took over the story and turned him into Adam Warlock. In Marvel Premiere Issue 1, the High Evolutionary got his hands on Him's cocoon and began to further his evolution process. Since Him was the first of his kind, the High Evolutionary gave him the name Adam, being inspired by Adam and Eve. Then the Soul Gem, or perhaps the Soul Stone as you would know it from the MCU, was implanted on his head. That made him insanely powerful, and with that power came the title of Warlock. So this is how Adam Warlock got his true origin in the comics. After that, he went on to become one of the strongest and most beloved characters in the Marvel lore. And now, it seems that the High Evolutionary will also be involved with his origin in the MCU. That's probably why both of them are making their debut in the same movie. Okay now, this sums up his origin segment. Before we move on to the next part, I'd love it if you guys would hit those like and subscribe buttons, just like Drax hits this hybrid. And once you do that, you'd be ready to look at the powers and abilities of Adam Warlock. Adam's unique biology and physiology grants him quite a few abilities. And with the addition of the Soul Stone on his head, his powers grew tenfold. From a character who was no match to the God of Thunder, he went on to become an android that might just take Thor down in a long-drawn battle. Maybe he won't be as strong as the comics in the MCU, since he doesn't have an Infinity Stone on his forehead. But we'll get to that in a moment. In the comics, Warlock just has a plethora of abilities. He has a genius-level intellect, which was enhanced by the Soul Stone. He possesses a symbiotic bond with the Soul Gem, and he was always in control of it. His physiology gives him the combo of powers that every super being possesses, as he has superhuman strength, durability, and stamina. He can't just fight for longer periods of time, but he can also sustain a strong hit. But it would actually be tough to land an attack on him because he also possesses superhuman agility and reflexes. So when his opponents go in on offense, they always end up being hit with a massive counterattack. And even when he gets hit, his cellular regeneration takes over in order to allow him a quick recovery. He also has the ability to fly. Along with that, Warlock possesses telepathy, but the exact level of his telepathic capability is unknown. But the one good thing about him is that he can resist other telepaths. One of his craziest abilities is his clairvoyance, as he is capable of seeing through time. And then comes his energy manipulation, which allows him to create energy constructs, manipulate matter, fire cosmic blasts, and even generate intense thermal energy. He can also perform quantum magic and is capable of spell casting. His android body allows him to be a master hacker. And then there are general abilities, as he is a skilled hand-to-hand combatant and master tactician. To go along with these powers and abilities, Warlock also has a few weaknesses. His inner darkness led to the creation of his evil self,
Magus.
But since we may not get to see Magus in the MCU, I won't elaborate on this bit. Apart from this, Warlock has shown vulnerability towards magic. But really, Adam Warlock is one of the strongest characters, if not the strongest of all. However, we presume that he won't be as powerful in the MCU because he doesn't have an Infinity Stone. Thanos turned all the Infinity Stones into atoms, so he couldn't have had one of those. But then what has James Gunn placed on his head? I believe that it could be some kind of self-sustained battery that powers him up. After all, the Sovereign had a root supply of Annulax batteries. So one of those could have been used on Adam Warlock, and this is James Gunn's idea to give him a comic-accurate look. Maybe Warlock can also fire an energy beam from it, just like White Vision does. Okay, that's all for now. Once again, I'd love it if you guys would smash those 2 magic buttons if you enjoyed the video. And you could even learn about many other characters if you click on this playlist over here. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one.